Hi, everyone. Welcome to Black Spring with Autumn. Does the name Edward Longshanks ring a bell? If so, you may enjoy reading historical fiction or have watched the movie Braveheart. Or perhaps the saying, rules for thee and not for me, might ring closer to home. Either way, we have seen a feudalist structure and rule by fiat from local and state governance during the draconian lockdowns across the US. Now, today we'll take a brief look at an article that was written earlier this year in May 1st of 2020, and it is entitled The Pandemic Road to Serfdom. We'll take a couple of excerpts from this particular article. It's written by Joel Kotkin. It's entitled, Our COVID Era Oligarchs Are Fitting Us for Feudalism. Even before the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, America, like most higher income countries, was already heading toward a neo-feudal future. Massive inequality, even greater concentrations of power, and increasingly widespread embrace of a uniform, albeit secular religion. The pandemic, all too reminiscent of the great plagues of the Middle Ages, seems destined to accelerate this process. This can be seen by looking at something that many Americans, particularly conservatives, often long to ignore: class. In contrast to the post-World War II order, which engendered growing opportunity for the middle and working classes, the last few decades have seen the rapid concentration of wealth in virtually every major country in Europe and Asia. The oligarchic class now owns as much as 50% of world's assets. Just five companies, Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft, account for over 20% of the market capitalization of the entire S&P 500 index. Today's new oligarchs constitute a modern-day equivalent of the medieval aristocracy. Like the barbarians who seized control of land during the demise of Rome, they seem well positioned to benefit from the emergent social distance-driven recession. The dislocation caused by the pandemic has greatly expanded the financial assets of the country's increasingly hegemonic giant banks. But the biggest long-term winners are the big tech firms that dominate digital pathways at a time when the analog world, already failing, now faces inexorable obliteration. Today's other ascendant class is what I call the clerisy, who today fulfill the role played by the clergy in the Middle Ages, known as the First Estate in pre-revolutionary France. The clerisy today is largely secular, but consists of the key influencers in the media, academia, the upper bureaucracy, and ever-expanding, quote, nonprofit, end quote, sector. This new middle class enjoys something of a symbiosis with the oligarchic elites, who mainly finance non-governmental organizations and the universities, and tends to share a similarly progressive worldview. The people losing out the most in the pandemic are the remnants of what was once dubbed the Third Estate, the commoners, long the bastion of democracy and liberal ideas. Millions of owners of small businesses have been devastated by the lockdowns, their lifetime investments allowed to turn to dust because the clerisy has declared them, quote, non-essential, and hopes to keep them in a lockdown well into the summer. Worse still, as the promise of becoming business owners and homeowners has faded, particularly for the young, many increasingly fall into the insecure, quote, precariat, end quote, of gig and part-time workers. These modern-day serfs are suffering the most from the pandemic. Millions of low-wage workers in hospitality, retail, and restaurants have lost their jobs and possess only meager prospects of getting them back in the near or even medium-term future. Many others, largely low-wage service workers in, quote, essential, end quote, jobs, are still working, but at high risk to themselves, often without adequate health and other protections. So, with this perspective or a hypothesis, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that this structure could be a reality for the US? Do you think it's going to be a reality for the world that will change the future for generations to come as a result of the hegemonic dominance or the digitization in our consumer and our economy culture? Let me know what you think in the comments. And please, if you could hit that like, unlike button, or dare to share or subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn.